Hello and welcome everyone. This is a super exciting night. We are here for the KAGI Season 11 Finals. It's been a pretty awesome top cut. We've gotten to see a lot of those here and on some other channels. Been some spicy games, some spicy decks, and we've got two adaptive veterans. Welcome in, Mooseman Dude, Atlantis. Good to see you all in here. We've got Holystewe and Quickdraw. Both have done amazing in this league over past several seasons, especially Quickdraw. I should have checked the stats, but I think this is the third finals Quickdraw has been in the past 3 seasons. So definitely earning his stripes in this format. They're about ready to go, so we're going to take a look at the decks really quick. But if you've been watching these already, you already know these decks. They're both bringing stuff that we've seen before. We've got Guadalupe, the periodically spiky. This is Quickdraw's go-to DT deck. Very, very interesting deck with plenty of artifacts that kind of really warp the game, with the Tide Warp, with the Hydro Cataloger, with Mecha Buoy, with the Static Collection Array, all kinds of things you have to watch out for that can really sneak in some pressure or even sneak in some keys. And then on Holystewe's side, we've got Vicky Cyborg Dimnieta della Moneta. This is the mass mutation deck we got to see them use in just the last game we streamed here. Really cool deck, lots of beefy Sanctum stuff to kind of take control of the board. We've got Ultra Gravitron for some more board presence, but also that efficiency. And then this Shadows, which is doing some stealing, doing some kind of nasty things, especially with those Seeker Needles and all the damage pips. So this should be a really interesting game. No artifact control on the mass mutation side is going to be interesting, but we do have things like the Book of Malefaction, which can deal with some stuff like Chelonia, except I don't know if this deck actually steals. We'd have to take a look at that. Yep, no stealing on this side, so that really won't be too much. Ultra Gravitron is a pretty high variance card. This deck has a pretty good amount of ways to get to it, though. I guess you got the Lethalogica. It's coming. Yeah, Discombobulator is not really going to do much. Some of the other things not going to do much. Guadalupe, as far as creature control, does not have a lot. Infighting doesn't really take care of Ultra Gravitron. Thin the herd. You have to get rid of a lot of other creatures first. You can stun it a lot, and then Final Analysis is basically going to be it. So when that comes down, is going to really do a lot in these matches. But without further ado, we are going to get into this game and see how it goes. All right, we're in. We've got Holystewe on the top, again running the mass mutation deck. Quickdraw on the bottom running the DT deck. And good luck and have fun to both. Ian Yoink, Toot and Carnage, welcome in as well. Very excited for this. This should be some fantastic games. Looks like we've got mass mutation deck going first. Again, that's one of those things you got to be watching for in the KAGI rules specifically. The same deck will go first every game. And you're going to be looking for that Ultra Gravitron turn 1 just to really put the pressure on the creature control early on. But we do have the Ulfbert device, which is actually one of those cards that can affect the Ultra Gravitron as well. Just kind of keep it from doing too much turn after turn, because you're going to have to wait basically 2 turns before you can even use it after you've played it. But the efficiency from Ultra Gravitron, always a big thing there. We've got the Bilge Warden, so getting the Tide early, always good for Guadalupe. Doesn't have a ton of Tide Raisers, if I remember. Well, I guess you've got the Tide Warp, but that will turn on some other things without having to take the chains. We have seen people take the chains with Guadalupe in some of the top cut games we've watched. Holystewe going back into Shadows. Okay, yeah, because they did the Sanctum turn up here. Holystewe was also a very fast player in our last match we watched, so going to try to keep up with everything. Both Rad Pennies coming down early is pretty big. Yep. First game. Welcome in Cats and Dogs and Dataforge stream. Zoc, good to see you here. We've got the Chelonia coming down, but these Rad Pennies are just going to start cycling a lot. So seeing both of those early is going to be brutal, because as you just draw through the deck, you're just going to see them more and more, and then you get to that low deck at the end, especially if you can get some of those artifacts down, because Guadalupe also doesn't have artifact control. So artifacts are going to play a big part probably in both of these games. But this is a big Untamed turn, getting the Chelonia, getting the Witch of the Dawn, and the Deepwater Gruin. And of course, Holystewe not able to go back into shadows to kill that Chelonia, so there's a good chance it actually sits around for a whole nother turn here. Going into Logos, so I don't think we're going to see enough creature control in Logos. Oh, there's going to be an Effervescent Principle, though, so that will at least slow down the Amber generation a little bit while you try to find some of your answers. But that Chelonia sitting on the board is scary. Can't go back into Untamed, but I mean, plenty of creatures in this deck to get more value out of that. Welcome in, JT Russell, Fudgenator. Good to see you all here. This is exciting stuff. Especially, like, I don't know if you all... There's been so much going on. Just conversations in Discords about KFC and everything that's about to happen. It's an exciting time for Keyforge. I'm loving it. But first, we've got our adaptive finals here. So Quickdraw, taking a little bit longer to think on this turn. Again, can't go back into Untamed. Just played the Untamed turn with Alphabet Device down. That's going to lock him out. Already seen some Star Alliance, but nothing in Archives. Your Logos turn, I don't know. I mean, they have plenty of creatures, right? It's not like a super low creature deck, but most of the creatures are actually in Untamed, so your other houses maybe aren't doing quite as much as you'd like. Another Technobabble here could be really big just to stun this whole board of shadows to keep it from fighting. But the other trick for Guadalupe is if this Amberheart starts getting value, like this is another one of those cards that this match specifically could do a lot. Those wards against such low creature control could be really big, but we're already seeing there's probably going to be a decent amount of fighting. We're not quite there yet, but neither of these decks really have a ton of creature control, especially with things like Book of Malefaction being kind of out of the game. We do see Biome Discovery, so we're going into Star Alliance. See, discards a Technobabble. Okay, so knowing you're not going to be able to go back into Star Alliance next turn anyways, it's not really worth it to draw into that. Chooses to play the Shield You later instead of putting it on the Chelonia. There's a decent chance putting it on the Chelonia actually keeps that Chelonia alive for another turn. Just looking here at what options they have, like Lights Out is not terrible if you get hit with that. Grey Rider could maybe come in and do some work. We do get the Teresa coming down too, and that will put us to check. So that's probably kind of the decision there, getting to check versus really banking on that Chelonia. But again, the creature control options in Holystewe's deck are not actually amazing either. Dead Sync, welcome in. Good to see you. This is an exciting one for sure. These two are both, like, they've had pretty fire seasons. Again, both are very much adaptive veterans, and so this is just like the best of this format and this league. I have to say though, Quickdraw also being one of the league admins is just kind of a little bit suspect, but no, he's helping out because he loves this format, and it shows with his skill in it. So we do see the Lights Out here. Interesting to see what you call here. Bouncing the Star Alliance is kind of nice because then so we got rid of one of the Star Alliance creatures in the Teresa, and then the Witch of the Dawn, which has no good targets right now. So both of those are kind of not amazing. We do get the Opportunist, so we're going to stop the key. What other reason is there to be admin? That is right, Ultimo Fox. Welcome in, by the way. That just guarantees you a spot, right? Let me tell you, streaming does not guarantee you a spot. I am very much evidence of that. So we do see the Chelonia getting fought off there. What fought it? Was it? Oh, we got the damage from the Opportunist. So we broke the ward. Huh. I missed. Because that Chelonia had +1 power, didn't it? Am I missing something? we have +1 power from the fittest. Oh, the rad pennies. Oh, so one of the rad pennies finished it off with fight. Okay, they both fought. Cool. Skill issue. You and me both, Fudge. We'll talk to our agents after this and figure out what's going on there, because it can't be a skill issue. It's impossible. It's adaptive, right? It's all luck. Come on. Sorry, I keep seeing like my camera maybe is in a weird space, so like I look like I'm leaning so hard and I'm just not. But it's gonna bug me the whole time, so I'm gonna try to just not think about it. Ooh. We do have the Logos Call on Quickdraw's side. Gonna give the Tide over, but playing the Tide Warp, so gonna get it back. Gonna get the Mecha Buoy as well, but we're giving an Amber to Holystewe here because of that Mecha Buoy. But Double Eddy is for sure gonna stop the key, so not a huge deal. Lean Forge, that is exactly what you mean. Like it's just, I just need to not think about it. Like I have to stop thinking about it, otherwise I'm gonna think about it the whole time. All right, we've got a Sanctum turn coming down. We've got Squire Alice gonna stop that key. Not gonna stop the key yet because that Mecha Buoy is gonna give the extra Amber at the start of turn with the Tide Warp taking the Tide, so not quite enough to stop, and just lots of Amber spread across these creatures now. So it's weird to say that Holystewe is kind of the one who is on the back foot for creature control. Did not necessarily expect that, especially with the Sanctum in this deck, but I think getting that Ulfbert device pretty early, definitely a factor here, I think. Yeah, the Ulfbert device is definitely having a big effect this game, right? It's very, very interesting. Ah, Red Panda, welcome in. Oh, let's see. Yeah, sorry, it tried to flag there's something about Ultimo Fox's name that it didn't like, but we are all good here. Welcome in, Red Panda. With decks like this, though, so like again, this is kind of where I tried to play decks that also had some artifacts they were dependent on, but they were way more dependent on one deck or on one artifact than the others. And if you don't see them early, it hurts. But these decks both kind of just get more value from each artifact they put down. Their deck isn't necessarily dependent on any one artifact, and I think that makes a pretty big difference in what happens here. So we are back on Quickdraw's turn. Actually just been waiting for Quickdraw's turn after forging that key, trying to decide what to do. The Star Alliance turn seems like it's going to be just playing out some extra creatures here, playing out that Volmart now. Kind of leaves you open. That's most of your Amber control gone now, except for the Xeno training and Submersive. We do have a big archive, so there could be some more stuff coming. Interesting to see what the Shield You Later does. Gonna fight one of the mutant cut purses. We've not seen the infighting yet, but I mean, at this stage, if you're Quickdraw, that's hurting you more than it's hurting Holystewe, except for all this captured Amber. But if you're able to keep your board, I think that's exactly where you want to be if you're Quickdraw, because you've got your collection ray down, you've got the Mecha Buoy down, like you're kind of in a golden spot here. It's on Holystewe to kind of deal with all this stuff, especially these taxing creatures. Which is hard to do. Like, especially I think this Mass Mutation deck wants to fight, and fighting is a slow process, especially when you have the Ulfbert device down. Yeah, Fudgenator, stop it. Too distracting. All right, so we got Rad Penny coming back down along with Reckless Rizzo, and we are going to get one of those Eddies taken out. Bone Ithing going to come down for another steal, going up to 10 here. Mutant Cut Purse is going to fight the second Eddie off. Oh, and the Seeker Needle had the last damage to kill the first Eddie. If I was actually like a good streamer, I would have sound bites, and I think Are You Not Entertained it would be up there. It's so good. Now you want the infighting if you're Quickdraw. Things are getting lopsided fast. Infighting still doesn't do a whole lot here. Holystewe playing around it pretty well. Reckless Rizzo gets taken out. Bone Ithing gets taken out. Rad Penny gets taken out. But a lot of that shadow stuff can't be used for another turn anyways because of the Ulfbert device. So that was a really big Shadows turn for Holystewe here. So going up to 11 Amber, Valmart is still on the board, but can't be used because of the Ulfbert device. So it's a double-edged sword here. 10% of your tourney legal decks have 6+ artifacts. I love artifacts. Like, I think that's probably why I don't do well in this game, is I overvalue artifacts, or I go for those really game warping artifacts for like Archon decks. But they're just so fun when you kind of have that like engine building aspect to them. I think Guadalupe definitely has that, especially with the Tide warp in effect. It really does some fun stuff. But Ulfbert device is hard. It's very hard to know if you're actually getting value out of it or if it's just annoying both players. And the question is, can you be annoyed less by it than your opponent? But like here, it's a very tough spot for Quickdraw because he would love to tax for that extra 3 because this Valmart is still alive. Can't because of the Ulfbert device. We don't have the youngest bear down, so can't get an extra reap there. So kind of tricky. No way to replay it either. And this is where like final analysis also hurts a lot because it's putting those rad pennies in back into the deck. And this deck is just getting smaller. We've got the seeker needles down too. So like these rad penny is just going to be a problem. Again, the Ulfbert is going to be really nice when you get down to the end of the deck because you can't just go shadows every turn. So that will probably be a nice advantage for Quickdraw once we get to that point. But right now, it's a big board of creatures that you don't want to fight into to get rid of, but they're going to start getting a lot of value after a couple turns. We do see the submersive principle. That's really, really big for Quickdraw there. Hydro Cataloger also coming down, going to start giving value to both players. Same kind of thing with a Tide Warp down. Hydro Cataloger is just very, very interesting. Yeah, Snag's Mirror was that one. Like I would have loved Snag's Mirror to work, but it was so hard to not just get locked out the turn after you play it by your opponent. Like it just happens so often, or you just don't have any houses that overlap, or even just one house that overlaps that it just doesn't do anything in that game. It maybe stops them from playing that house one turn. Deepwater Gruin gonna fight the Squire Alice, so getting to 5, but we are gonna lose the Tide. I guess you get the Mecha Buoy anyway, so that's the nice thing about the Tide Warp. You get the Amber every turn, and you're only giving Amber to your opponent every other turn. Not tonight, welcome in. It is late for you, but glad you could be here, or early. I don't know where we're at yet. One of those two, but glad you could be here to support Quickdraw. Should be fun. Novu Archaeologist archiving the fittest, so gonna try and beef up the board even more just to keep it from getting fought off, because again, that's kind of one of Holystew's bigger things here, is to just fight the board off. Unable to use the Shadows board is really rough for Holystewe, so again, Ulfbert device just really doing stuff this game. See which way they decide to go here. Haven't seen a ton of Sanctum yet outside of the artifacts, so let's see. We've got Opal Knight kills even power creature. Is that right? Yeah, Opal Knight kills even power, so that really doesn't kill hardly anything on this board. It kills your Vault Keeper, which is not great, and it tries to kill your daughter. So probably don't want to be playing that here, but we see a Logos Call instead. Just gonna keep building the board. We've got Bot Booked coming down. These damage pips are really doing a lot. Let's do advertising for the new Ultra Wide playmats for sure. Now we just need to. I don't want to zoom out more. Like we're already zoomed out enough. I might need to move the chat a little bit too, so people can actually see the cards. But those cards have been there for a while. We know what's going on. Oh, we see the Ultra Gravitron come down. Okay, so this is where things start getting a little bit more dicey for Quickdraw. That Ultra Gravitron giving a lot of value and going to be able to just sit there and start purging stuff off the board. Discombobulator goes down on it as well. Again, that's not really doing much in this matchup. No steal on Quickdraw's side. We do get the fight from the daughter. Don't see that too often, but it's going to get that Font of the Eye just to take Quickdraw off check. Again, gonna get the Amber at the start of turn from the Mecha Buoy, but we'll lose the Tide, so the keys will cost 7 again. So I guess we weren't gonna lose the key anyways. Lots of math you have to think through with all this stuff on the board. A big archives for both players here, though. Holystewe thinking? Deciding what's still left as far as... Oh, captures one on Ultra Gravitron. Probably not a bad call. Again, about the only way Quickdraw gets rid of that is with the final analysis, which pretty far through the deck, so we could see one of those board clears coming down here. Either the final analysis or... Actually, final analysis is pretty crazy. I need to look at the wording on it again, because are these in the discard when you draw, or does it draw first? I think these are in the discard, right? So then it's not quite as good. Yeah, infighting will do better. But I was going to say, otherwise it's a great time because there'd only be 2 cards for Holystewe to draw, so not actually getting a lot of value from all these creatures getting blown up. All right, we see the Untamed turn. We're going to see those archives get pulled here. All tied up, going to take the Tide back, get some Amber. Deepwater Gruin is just going to reap. So should be a pretty big burst here. There's the infighting. Yeah, this is going to get a lot of Amber back for Quickdraw as well. Put some damage on stuff. It does kill a few of his, and it does put those Rad Pennies back into deck, and we will get a Shadows turn. Might not be next turn because you still want to draw into him. Chelonia's back. Mookling coming down, getting more Amber. Witch of the Dawn going to be able to bring back that Deepwater Gruin just for more burst. Big turn here. Steve Forge as Tarfield intended. Holystewe, not a fan of that turn. Going to 18 Amber. Holystewe's deck has... we've seen the Effervescent Principle get played. But it maybe was... Has there been a reshuffle? There must have been, right? All right, you guys are going on tangents in the chat. I'm just trying to keep up with everything. Holystewe now chastising Quickdraw. Bad Quickdraw for gaining 18 Amber. Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty tough spot for Holystewe. 18 is a lot. DT is drunk AOA. I want to know how many of y'all are gonna play Amber Skies decks for Alliance or for Adaptive, because I'm probably going to. I'll still lose, but I think it's gonna be a very fun Adaptive set. There's so many interesting things going on there. Yes, we have seen the Data Forge go by for... Oh, wait, for... Do they both have Data Forge? No. We have seen it go by for Quickdraw. It is in the discard. Bring in some Amber Skies for KAGI Live. Nice. This is a fun matchup for sure. I think... I don't know. That start for Quickdraw was really nasty. We'll see if Holystewe can do that in game 2 here. Got a Sanctum turn. Looks like it's... He's hoping for magic. We'll see. Problem with Katina Fiend decks is they're also kind of rare. There have not been that many tokens of change decks opened. Triple D animator shenanigans. I would love to see that, JT. Okay, so we're gonna get the ward on Ultra Gravitron just to make sure it stays there. We get a fight on Chelonia, but Chelonia's got the elusive, so we should see the Grey Rider coming down to do the rest of it. Opal Knight is going to kill the Vault Keeper, Bot Bookton, and strip the ward off the Ultra Gravitron. They're going to get an archive, though, first from the Cronus, so resolving that here before everything blows up. That Fittest actually really big because it makes all of these little even power creatures into odd power, which very heads up play by Quickdraw to do that, knowing the Opal Knight was coming. Because you can see it also did not play that on the rest of these, so everything on Quickdraw's line is odd power at the moment. We are going to see the Ultra Gravitron with the extra fight here. Going to fight Chelonia and then purge the Deepwater Gruin, which is going to gain them some Amber. Grizzled Wyvern. I'm gonna have to remember what that one does, but Deanimator is a very fun card. I feel bad for Blinking Line for that card's existence, because it brings up just so many rules questions, but it is a very fun card. Yep, gotta know your maths. All right, see Squire Alice come back down for a little bit more capture. Font of the Eye, discarding the Fangs of Gizzleheart. Baldric the Bold did not get any Amber that turn because the Grey Rider fought with Ultra Gravitron. But we're already starting at 9 Amber. We're going to get the Tide back as well on Quickdraw's turn, so keys are going to be costing 5. What's a tight spot? Tight spot for Holystewe. Yeah, wackier the better. And that card does some things. There was another one we were playing with at locals that brought up a lot of rules questions too. I'm trying to remember, but I don't know. Amber Skies has some really fun stuff. I've been enjoying it. Paid off by Jargoggle. I mean, Jargoggle's got some shady stuff going on underneath, doesn't it? Starting to feel drowned with all this tiding. Poor Holystewe. Just not feeling it with the DT deck. Oh, yes, but it was refined adhesive with Skull and Buzz. This maybe has been asked in some of the discords, but do the cards under refined adhesive get played by Skull and Buzz? Or are they specifically under refined adhesive, not under Skull and Buzz, so they don't count, but any upgrade is under the creature? All right, so we got the final analysis. Quickdraw goes to check at 16. Yeah, that's a very interesting one. They can be played by Skull and Buzz if they're creatures. That's hilarious. That makes me so happy. Dave was playing a deck. I think he just opened one, and he was playing it with those 2 cards, and we're just sitting there like, does that do that? Does that do that thing? And apparently it does. That is awesome. If they haven't ruled on it by Worlds, we're going to play it that way. All right, so what answers does Holystewe have for 16 Amber? Not enough, I think. EP brings them down to 8, but you need to get them down to 5. I don't think there's a way to play EP twice in this deck. Oh, Grizzled Wyvern is capture. So yeah, you just turn it into an artifact and then you can blow it up or ward it or whatever. I guess the ward doesn't really matter on an artifact, but... yeah, the visuals of that is pretty amazing, right? Like, Inspector Gadget style gum sticking creatures to the side of this giant sandhopper machine thing that's just like popping creatures out all the time. Okay, so we get the logos call. So he's gonna do what he can. Takes Ultra Gravitron. Okay, so it gets to replay Ultra Gravitron. But that does not destroy 16 Amber. And that is a nope. He does not have an answer. Only one chance. I would be interested to see what that one chance was. Yeah, looping EP. I don't know how you can... I guess with drop hips, you'd have to be able to Lethalogica. You'd have to archive like the rest of your logos from your deck. Lethalogica to the end of your deck, play EP, and then use a drop hip on another creature and play it again. All right. Yeah, that is a blowout. That is a pretty rough game 1, but we'll see if that actually if Holystewe can replicate that in game 2. And pips on other cards. I think the deck has already been generated, so it's too late for those to change. All right, we are ready for game 2. We're going to be switching decks. Again, the Mass Mutation deck is going to be going first. Quickdraw will be on that one. Holystewe will be on the DT deck. Yep, I already got it covered. Back in. Looks like we lost one of the players, so might have to remake here. Yeah. Every once in a while, TCO likes to do that to us. Check where they're at on Discord. There we go. So what do you learn from that if you're Holystewe? Is it worth... I mean, I think we saw for sure that the Elfbird device, Quickdraw, Elfbird device is pretty big, but is it worth mulliganing for? Like, what are you looking for if you're Holystewe playing the DT deck? Is it just Tiderazor plus Untamed first, which is kind of what Quickdraw had next? Is it really trying to build a board? It's just as many artifacts as you can find. That was quite the moment, right? Dead Sync. Just like, hey, by the way, this does actually exist. I don't know what FFG was thinking, but the enhancements are there. Okay, so Quickdraw gonna take a quick break. So let's take a look at these decks again. What were kind of our big things that happened there? I missed where some of the archiving came from. How did he get back Chelonia? Because he didn't play Witch of the Dawn that turn. I should have just kept the log up. I should have kept the game open so we could look at some of this. Because there was that Untamed turn. Trying to know, like, because he had archived 5, but I don't think he had flipped the deck yet, right? Guadalupe didn't flip until, like, right at the end. Unless I was just totally missed it and it did flip. I don't think we saw... Oh, did it get... It didn't get Thin the Herded, so it didn't get shuffled back in. Oh, yeah, what? I think that was after Sky Jedi came on board, but... Yeah, I'd have to go look at the news articles, which I was searching for today anyways, because I was trying to figure out what all of our Vault Tours and Nationals looked like. And we were doing the math on what all of basically how many spots might be open for the LCQ at KFC. Because we have 3... Wow, I can't do 3. My pinky likes to go with 3 Worlds events this year. We've got Sealed Alliance with Amber Skies, which is going to be awesome. Archon and Alliance. And each of those is going to be a 24-person... Thought it was before Sky? Okay. I don't know. It was a great day, regardless. It was pretty amazing. Because that definitely changed a lot for how we kind of... Well, changed a lot for the secondary market, among other things, but it really made kind of looking at decks, evaluating decks, using tools like the OK a lot easier. So very exciting. Now they just need a house enhancement search because holy cow. That is a pain to find certain cards enhanced the way you want. But anyways, for KFC, so they got those 3, each of them are 24, and with all the possible qualifiers, there could be up to 22 for Archon Alliance, and then 20 for Sealed. But a lot of those are qualified for more than one, which if you're qualified for Sealed and one of the other ones, it sounds like you can do both. Yeah, big shout out to Zoc and the Fab Penny Press team, always doing good stuff. We got the winky face from Quickdraw. I think that means he did cheat, right? Like, that's what we've already been saying. He's an admin for this event. He's playing in the finals. He's doing manual mode. Murph, you're going to have to let me know. If we got to kick him out, then it's just what we got to do. All right, so Holystewe, thinking about this mulligan. I think mulligans are probably where I lose a lot of game twos. It's pretty interesting. I think probably that has to do some with the games or the decks that I bring. But man, if you just have a slow start, these games can get away from you so fast. Even if you have the deck that seems better, there's a lot of aggressive decks. Guadalupe, we just saw, can have crazy amounts of burst. Holystewe wants the fancy stuff. All right, and we do see a mulligan from Holystewe, but not for Quickdraw. Quickdraw getting the Amber Heart down early, going to try and get those wards going. But we actually see a pretty familiar start there from Holystewe. Not quite the Bilge Warden, but we've got Eddie coming down for some archiving and the Nobu Archaeologist to do more of that. We do see the Cronus come down, though, along with Bob Bookton and Infomorph. So both getting some decent boards here with some scary stuff going on. Going to be some archiving, too, from the Infomorph. Wow. Infomorph. I got a fast Starlines call. This could be some stunning going on. Stunning these three would be pretty solid. Yep, so we see the Technobabble going to stun all three there, getting the Static Collection Array down, and then Infomorph. Shieldulator going on the Eddie. Going to try and keep that alive for a little bit, make sure there's some taxing going on. Thanks, Doc. You've done a awesome job covering every final up till now, basically, in the KAGI League, but it's been fun. I love doing this. I love getting to interact with you all, and adaptive games are just a great showcase of the fun decks of Keyforge, not necessarily just the competitive ones. So, and then we'll get into the interview at the end where I'll just be fumbling over all of my words. So I'll let them drive that one a little bit more, but it should be fun still. We do see the Book of Malefaction coming down, just kind of getting that out of the way. Bulwark, and then we're warding the Bot Bookton. Very interesting call there from Quickdraw. Really wants to get that extra play efficiency rather than maybe some extra archiving efficiency. I think this is probably to try and counteract Ultimate Device if it comes down. Oh, we see the final analysis get discard, and then the Novu Archaeologist is going to archive it. He's literally Data Forge. Come on. Telegraphing the Knight. Also a good call there, JT. Well, I mean, but you played the Bulwark too. I don't know. It's hard to say, but yeah, the Opal Knight would kill this Bot Bookton. I guess you can ward this right before you play the Opal Knight since you already have the Amber Heart down. Thinking what to do with the Eddie here. Probably considering killing the Cronus. There's not a ton of draw pips. I think we said it's like 4. Decided to just reap instead. Just keep that pressure up. We are going to see the unstuns here on the logo side. See if the Ultra Gravitron comes down. We just saw final analysis get archived. Ooh, there's an Effervescent Principle. With one of those drop pips, we're going to see another archive, and then Holystewe getting taken down to 3. But that Tide Warp is going to start going into effect here as well. Discombobulator going on the warded Bot Bookton. Again, there's no steel in Guadalupe, so not a huge deal, but some extra amber. Holystewe requesting very politely not for a Quickdraw not to play the Ultra Gravitron, and Quickdraw didn't. So there you go. Just mind your manners and everything's fine. Or become the admin of a league and then everything's also. I'm just kidding. Quickdraw said he had a chance to get the Ultra Gravitron but did not find it. Right, so Holystewe only gone Logos and Starline so far, so could see a pretty big Untamed turn coming up, and that's what we see him go into. See the all tied up. Just gonna get the tide or get some extra amber there. We do see the Chelonia coming down. See what else he's got. There's the Fittest, which again is going to protect that Chelonia from the Opal Knight if that comes down. It does mean the Eddy is going to die, but that also keeps the Nofu Archaeologist alive. Simple turn, but does get him to check, except they're going to lose the Tide next turn, so this will actually be not check for this turn. Ooh, got the lights out. So the first Shadows turn here coming from Quickdraw. Gonna get the Seeker Needle down, bouncing both of those odd power creatures, and then a Techno Thief. So still not really pushing the Amber in a big way. Archives also going up for both players now with the Hydro Cataloger down. Gotta practice batting eyelashes. Yeah, for that in-person play, you gotta have all kinds of ways of bribing people. Homemade cookies. Honestly, if you showed up and gave me a homemade cookie to not play an EP, there's a good chance I would take you up on that. I'm all about the cookies. Holystewe sat there. Board is starting to look fancy. So off-board device is down. So that means Quickdraw locked out of Shadows next turn. Probably doesn't care too much about that. It's kind of a smaller turn anyways. We're going to get the Teresa coming down, a Stunner, and then some Capture going to 9 and going to be getting the Tide back. So keys will cost 5 next turn for Holystewe. So we'll see what Quickdraw does here. Sanctum, again, not having a ton of Amber control outside of like Squire Alice and then Font of the Eye not down yet. You see Fangs, so that Eddy getting just big enough to be Fangs there. 4 power going to be tied for the largest. Bulwark going to finish off the Teresa. And now Holystewe is saying that Quickdraw is being rude on top of everything else. So they're having fun at least. And there's the Opal Knight as JT predicted, but getting discarded here because it's just not a reason to play it. It really depends. I mean, we see both of these decks don't really have a ton of creature control, so the device probably is a lot more effective at keeping you from using creatures. There are a few ways to ready and use creatures in these decks, but we do see Squire Alice, Baldric coming down. Not going to be enough to stop that key. Going to forge for 5 here. You see the infighting and the Chelonia coming back down. So again, how did the Chelonia get back in? Do I just keep missing this? Was there a... Oh, it's the lights out. Okay, lights out, put the Chelonia back in hand. Getting a little bit more amber here. Quickdraw going up to 6 with the It's Coming. See if we actually get full Ultra Gravitron. But we do know still the final analysis is in hand. So Holystewe probably just holding on to that. Playing the infighting last turn just didn't do quite enough. Lots of damage, but not really killing too many things. Pinhead Larry, welcome in. If you all don't know, Pinhead Larry has been doing some Keyforge streams as well. I haven't gotten to sit on those too much yet, but I see him on there. Go give them a follow. I think you do some other stuff too, right? Some other games, but always fun. Yes, we are on game 2. Quickdraw took game 1 with Guadalupe. Let's see. So we got the Ultra Gravitron coming down. We got Opposition Research. Bot booked in. Plays a daughter. That's a pretty nice play. It's true. Can't be late if you never said you were going to be on time. All right. So we got 4 in archives for Holystewe, but we know one of those is the final analysis. So I mean, there's a world here where Team Carnage. I did think about that. This was a little bit. Should have gotten a scoreboard up there. Wonder if I can build one while they're playing. I definitely should have thought about that. It's just hard enough to see what's going on TCO. I wish TCO was a little bit more streamer friendly. But yeah, we are sitting at Quickdraw 1 to Holystewe 0. Holystewe got some questions here. Chelonia is still on the board, so you could take your archives, take the tide, get some creatures on the board first, then final analysis. Okay, so Colin logo, so that's probably what we're going to see. There's the tide change. So get a bunch of amber from playing creatures, and then that final analysis will just give you a bunch more. Playing the submersive first, so going to stop the key for quick draw here, really big. Not hitting themselves too much. Here comes some creatures. If I just keep you all confused enough, you'll have to talk to me. Thanks, Budgenator. Okay, so we only get the one creature coming down. It looks like we're going to see final analysis coming next, and then whatever Holystewe draws, which could be into another Eddie. What else do you do here? I mean, it could be the Data Forge. If you pull the Data Forge off this, you're already at 8. You're going to be drawing 3 more, so you'll be at 7. So go up to 10, and you'll be getting some amber. So this could just be, yeah, I'm going to think about this. It's a big play. Want to make sure it's true. Oh yeah, I will 100% forget to update scoreboards if I put them on there. Like, you've seen my live streams with when we tried to do 3 of us. I missed the changing the names for us for half of the games. 2 in 10 chance not to hit a creature. So wants to play a drop hip. Yeah, it was just so Holystewe took the tide this turn, so it's just those 3 chains from taking the tide. Plays the Data Forge off of the Theory or Conjecture. Definitely not what you wanted to see there. You're really hoping to draw into that this turn. That's brutal. That could be, I don't know if that's going to be game ending, but this is going to be a lot of draw for quick draw here. So yeah, quick draw going up to 16 cards. But let's see, what quick draw cannot play logos next turn. So we're going to see probably some shadows nastiness coming. Holystewe only going to 8-2, and their keys are going to cost 7 with the Tide Warp. So yeah, definitely not the result Holystewe wanted. Not drawing any more logos cards either off of that. I think that is that's rough. That might be game. We'll kind of see what happens, but that was not what they were hoping to have happen there. Yeah, that's what he was talking about with the odds of hitting a creature. So off of the Theory of Conjecture, 2 out of 10 chance not to hit a creature, and he hit one of those 2. Just unfortunate. Yeah, Holystewe's not happy, and that could be pretty rough. Again, got to worry about the Ulfbert device, so kind of quick draw needs to kind of think through not just next turn, but the next turn or 2. But is going to be able to stop the key pretty handily with shadows here. Bone Knithing coming down, Rad Penny, probably second Rad Penny with a damage pip to kill the first Rad Penny, shuffle it back in. Seeker Needle is live, going to be able to kill the other Rad Penny. Oh, maybe not the second Rad Penny. Did one get milled? So missed that earlier. There's an opportunist with some damage pips. So thinking about where those damage pips are going. Lights out for the Amber. Reckless Rizzo with another damage pip. Choosing not to hit the rad pennies here. I guess you're not going to be drawing for a bit here. 15 card hand. So you're not going to see those rad pennies again anytime soon. Master Plan coming down. So you're going to be able to see some interesting things happen with that, especially with Ultimate Device down. That really kind of gives you a little bit more flexibility. I'm not sure what you put under there. Maybe the Fangs, if you've redrawn into that. Maybe the Grey Rider could be fun. Or maybe the Effervescent Principle, just if you need it on any given turn. But this is a lot. Going up to 11 Amber. Gonna get some Secret Needle value here as well. Killing off Rad Penny. And there you go. So Holystewe going back down to 4. Quickdraw up to 11 for key 1 still. Holystewe on a hand of 9. So we could see the Volmart coming down because they haven't. Yeah, we haven't seen Volmart yet. Can't play a second Eddie because of Ultimate Device, even if you drew it. But he would have played that last turn, I imagine, if he had drawn it. So now it's someone in chat's fault that the Data Forge got played. Oh, Zox. It's Zoc's fault. That makes sense. Come in here with a name like Data Forge. We're gonna see Data Forge get played. All right, Holystewe saying he needs to rush. Just gonna try and get as much amber as possible now. There you go. It is recorded on stream. Completely Dataforge stream's fault that the Dataforge was on top there. So we'll just let Holystewe know that that this loss is completely invalid if that's what happens. But game's not over yet. Oh, hasn't found the Witch of the. Which one is it? Witch of the Dawn. Hasn't found the Witch of the Dawn yet either to get Chelonia back. Doesn't have the Tide either here, so that still probably wouldn't be a huge play. I'm still thinking about my shoulders. It's driving me nuts. I'm leaning so hard. Then the herd pretty big. Again, not going to be able to use this board next turn anyways, but it really lets you not worry about it for another turn or two. But that is going to give back both a Bonithing and a Rad Penny. But we'll see how fast Quickdraw can actually get to those. And then, yeah, we see that Mutant Cut Purse with the Amber on it going out as well. Oh, and the Moogling coming down for some taxing too. So really, like, not the worst in terms of reconciling what happened there. The artifacts all kind of coming down is going to be rough. There's going to be a lot of value for a quick draw, but I mean, most of the board gone. Some of your amber getting taxed here. Covering up Youngest Bear, so it's not going to have any value, but, you know, probably not going to survive either. It rarely does. What else do you have here in Untamed you're thinking about? Oh, Deepwater Gruin. That's really tough. You just took the Tide. Do you want more chains here? Set rotation for KAGI. Does go for it. Okay, double Deepwater Gruin. Okay, so I think if you're playing 2 of them, that's probably worth it. That's a pretty big burst there still. You're still getting the archives off of the Hydro Cataloger, but we are probably going to see the EP. Yep, so there's the EP, bringing them back down to 5, and again, key cost is going back up to 7 because of that Tide Warp. Yikes. Yeah, just not going Holystewe's way here. The Cronus coming down. Did see the it's coming, but it doesn't take anything, so he's probably got the whole Ultra Grav in, or is Ultra Grav in? Yeah, no, probably has the whole Ultra Grav in hand. There's the Ultra Grav. Again, not going to have too many ways to deal with that until the reshuffle now. Mythologica and opposition research. I don't know what you guys are talking about now. Googling and data caps and ads. Hopefully you all don't have ads on mine. I did reach affiliate, but I have not accepted it because I would never make money anyways, and so it's not worth giving people ads for that. Okay, so it was the Grey Rider under the master plan, which is going to get a free fight off of Ultra Gravitron as well as a purge for some extra amber. Yeah, that's a really big, as Holystewe is saying. Vault Keeper getting discarded from the archives by the Ultra Gravitron. Yeah, we'd love to see a game 3, but it's looking a little rough. Holystewe's got a mountain to climb here. Hitting that Data Forge was honestly massively unlucky for Holystewe, because that would have been a key if he'd have just drawn into it that turn. Fair enough. Thanks, Ultimo Fox, for the very succinct summary. All right, Holystewe got some things to think about here on 5 chains, so only a 5-card hand here. A couple cards in archives from the Hydro Cataloger, but a lot to deal with. You've got Grey Rider on the board, so a Sanctum turn from Quickdraw can still do a lot of damage just by using these creatures next to it, as well as getting more creatures on the board. You can go back into Shadows, maybe replay. Still don't think we've drawn yet. Right, that Logos turn didn't quite get us. What did he play? Because he was at... Oh, and you're on chains too. Yeah, we didn't lose the chain, so I don't think there was any draw. So probably don't have the Rad Pennies back yet. Yeah, so Holystewe kind of has the right idea. Quickdraw is sitting on tons of Sanctum to play, which means Holystewe needs to find some creature control very quick. Could see some stunning here. Yep, there's a Techno Babble. Can hit just the Grey Rider. More scary than all the rest. But that's fair. That's probably a good hit. Yeah, that Ultra Gravitron purging these is pretty nasty. There's a biome discovery for the free. So these taking the tide is kind of hurting Holystewe a bit here because it keeps bumping. It means on his turn he keeps getting his key cost back up to 7 because of this tide warp. Does get to no, just raises the tide, so it doesn't get to do any filtering. But we did flip the deck. Again, probably going to see a lot of Sanctum come down here, but it could be. I don't know. I guess with Ultra Gravitron proc, we could have hit a lot of Shadows in the archives, so it could be back into Shadows here. Don't learn too much about Twitch. It goes downhill real fast, but it's fun for some things for sure. It's great for this. And for Bottom of the Beaker, the Sloppy Lab Work podcast / Twitch show that they're going to be filming tonight, I believe, after this match. I don't know if it's going to be right after or not, but JT and Quickdraw, they're filming it a day early. So if you want to hang around, thanks, DeadSync. Again, I love it. I'm thankful to get to do it as much as I've been able to. It's not always easy, especially like the scheduling with international players. Like, I love that we get to play with international players, but trying to schedule 2 people to play a game plus someone to cast is a lot, so it can be kind of exhausting for everyone. But also hoping to get to do some casting at KFC. Talk to Josh a little bit about that, depending on what happens with the last chance qualifier. I might just do a full day, so either the full sealed day or the full Archon Alliance day. I might just try and sit on that for a while, pull some guest people in, but try to just help them by anchoring one of those. We'll see though. We'll see what happens. There's plenty of people who could do it at KFC. Twitch runs the service for us. That's right. Where's my money? All right, so we do get the Sanctum call. Discarding the Opal Knight doesn't really do a whole lot here except kill your own Ultra Gravitron and Infomorph and Grey Rider. It's kind of an interesting card in that deck. It's not very useful. Squire Alice, gonna stop the key again. Holystewe. Trying to bait Quickdraw into playing the Opal Knight. Not gonna work. You know what, Atlantis? It is so not a big deal if you don't want to be on stream. They'll move you to a different table at all. It doesn't feel too much different. Like, especially at KFC, you'll be in a different room, so you won't be able to hear like the casters or anything. It'll just be like raised up a little bit, and there's not even like extra lighting or anything too much. It's just a camera above you. So it's really fun, but it's seriously not a huge deal at all if you want to just focus on the playing too, which this will be a big topic of their podcast tonight. So definitely go listen to that or sit in on that, because kind of just the whole idea of like the stresses and stuff of high level like big OP events, because that's definitely been a huge thing for me that I had to kind of get through getting into Keyforge and stuff, and just some cool ways to think about that and deal with it. So go listen in on that as well. So not a massive turn there for Quickdraw, getting some Sanctum creatures down, getting up to 7 Amber, so that will be check. Quickdraw obviously making all the mistakes, also discarding this amazing card with the Fangs of Gizzleheart, which I don't think we looked at this before, but this has the damage pip on it, which is just fantastic. That is anything that's warded, you're also just still able to get around that. Such a great, just one of those tiny things. Just one little damage pip can just make a card so much like more valuable, so much more consistent. And I love that about Mass Mutation, especially, is kind of when that whole idea was introduced, and now it's just a bigger thing. So we had, I think my favorite match to commentate while Holystewe was thinking was the Open Archon finals for last year's KFC. Is Ben the Monkey, and I'm trying to remember who they're playing against, but he was so fun. He just kept like doing his amber in like heart shapes and stuff, and he'd keep like looking at the camera and like giving us stuff. Like, if you didn't see that, go back and watch that. I think that was on that'll be on Fudginators, old VODs, but KFC from last year, that Archon finals match. It was so entertaining. Playing Ooze, which is also a pretty awesome deck. Right, Ultimo? That's like, I need to do more stuff like that. Not necessarily having people commentate, but almost having people like play my decks for me or whatever. Like, there's just so many things that I need to do to help me get better that are not just playing more games. Card deals damage, and with Pip, it combines into one batch to clear ward. But ping plus purge gets through. No, so every damage pip is actually an individual instance of damage. So every single one of those is actually separate. So you could hit, if there was 4 damage pips on this, you could hit 4 different wards, because they're all kind of like separate instances. And if a creature has a ward on it, the first damage would remove the ward, and then the next 3 damage pips would hit it, and then that creature would get purged. So the way that pips work is different than cards like what is it? sack of coins, where all the damage is allocated separately, but then dealt simultaneously. Who'd you say? So it's Ben the Monkey, which I don't know if he still playing around or not, and I'm trying to remember who he's playing against. The Archon. Oh, it was I think it was one of the Danish guys, who was playing a Vaultmaster deck with, oh gosh, I'm gonna get in trouble if he's not actually Danish. One of the old Keyfrog guys. If any of y'all watched that when they were streaming a while back, he was playing a Hollowfest deck. Right, that's what I was saying. So sack is different than damage pips. Damage pips are all separate. Whereas, yeah. If you want, I have a timing chart video, or several timing chart videos that explain some of this. All right, let's get back into the game. We've got a Logos call here. Submersive Principle coming down to kind of equalize things. We've got the Tide coming back again. So taking the Tide again with the Bilge Warden, getting some archives going. So going to try and work through some of these chains. A big Talmage Steelheart going to try and do stuff on the board. But problem is you did not deal with this Logos. So we're probably going to see a really big Logos turn here. Just start purging stuff. This Deepwater Gruin's probably going to be gone. We're going to get some stuff played off the top, which could be some of those rad pennies. I would bring a PowerPoint if I was a judge. It's like, okay, here's my easel. Let's figure this out. Yeah, Holystewe knows it. Gruin is going away. Get the Logos call from Quickdraw. Reaping gets us a Reckless Rizzo. Oh, the Barrister Joy is down too. I missed that before. So this whole board is also not going to be able to reap until that gets taken out. This is your deck, Holystewe. If you wanted to pull cards out of it before the game, you should have done that before the game. Gruin existed. That is enough for Quickdraw. There is no room for sympathy. Right? It's all great draws. So now we got Quickdraw admitting it on stream that he only gets good draws because he is a KAGI admin. All right, so let's see what else is going on. We've got Reckless Rizzo dealing damage to Youngest Bear. Infomorph fights Eddie. Graf fights Volmart. Gonna get that extra bonus Amber, purging the Gruin. Extra capture off Font of the Eye. So maybe not actually a massive turn there. Get a couple more creatures down. I mean, this is bad. This is pretty bad for Holystewe. Needs to find infighting plus a lot of other stuff. I mean, infighting, let's see. I'm sure Quickdraw's been kind of keeping a good eye on this. Techno Thief dies, Cutpurse dies, Infomorph dies, Grey Rider dies, Bot dies, Daughter dies. So, I mean, it still does something. You can get a little bit more damage on something with the Flumph, but you're not dealing with the Gravitron. Plus, you've just lost a lot of your Amber Burst in Untamed, so definitely a tight spot, but it's still been a slower game. Ulfbird device is still down, so no going back into Logos for Quickdraw. But the Sanctum turn is going to be pretty brutal here. Teresa getting played on Bilge Warden, but can't use it to reap because of that Barrister. Shield You Later coming down. I don't think you want to use it anyways. You could just fight something. Biome Discovery to take the Tide. Techno Babble gonna stun. I would imagine this line right here. Yep. Okay. So Holystewe still knows what's going on. Still very, very much in this game in terms of just game state and doing everything they can to try to win this. Trying to force Quickdraw into Shadows, which Shadows is still gonna be a brutal turn. So yes, it is very late for Holystewe. We talked through like 5 different times to play this game, and finally he's just like, we're just gonna do this. But if we don't go to game 3, then he gets done a little bit early. No, he said it's worth it to get this game done and streamed. So Village Warden fights the Grey Rider off the board. Cheetah comes down for some elusive. So yeah, this Shadow's turn is going to be brutal. Reckless Rizzo on the board, going to be able to steal. Probably has both Rad Pennies in hand, which are both going to get shuffled by the Seeker Needles. Because it's not really worth shooting anything on Holystewe's side. I don't think the ultra wide maps are big enough for this battle line. Just gonna say, we're kind of past that point now. This is like the wraparound. You need just like a Yu-Gi-Oh dual disc, but it's just like an entire circle around you, and you can like spin it. Somebody needs to make one of those, like a Lazy Susan for your battle line. Hit forfeit and leave. It's very fast, but not a high win rate there. Where's Ketzer? Ketzer would have liked my Yu-Gi-Oh reference. All right, Reckless Rizzo steals 2. Rad Penny number 1 steals an Amber. Seeker Needle kills Rad Penny. Rad Penny number 2 steals an Amber. Deals the damage to Flumph. Bonithing steals another Amber. Opportunist going to capture and make Ultragrav elusive just in case there was a chance it was going to be fought off. Lights out just to make things worse. Yeah, so I mean, you kind of wonder, like, even with the Data Forge, would Holystewe been able to have forged past Quickdraw? Uses Techno Thief. Oh, to discard the Fangs. I thought it was getting played by Bob Bookton. That would have been hilarious. Listen, I grew up in an era where there was not much on TV besides all of the different monster/card game shows. Which is why I love Keyforge, because it reminds me of those and does the mechanics better than the real games based off of those. Gotta be careful with that in here, Toot and Carnage. That's those are fighting words to some people. All right, so let's see. 14 Amber for Quickdraw here. Gonna be another 3-key to 1 blowout. It looks like we already know the Submersive is gone. You've got 1 card in Archives. You can get 2/3 with a second Eddy and taking the Tide. All right. If they like Wild Wormhole, I think they're justified in being inconsistent about their consistency. Can't argue with these people. I don't know what these players are talking about anymore. There's some kind of like, I don't get this reference. It's cold up here. Rizzo and Bonithing. All right, so we got the Thin Herd. Still gets to hit a bunch of shadow stuff that doesn't really help you to get off the board. Wild Opinions. Careful, they might make a card called that later. All right, gets the Squire Alice off the board, getting a couple Amber back. Got the Witch of the Dawn, gonna finally bring back Chelonia. Oh no, Chelonia got shuffled because we've already flipped the deck, so just getting a Flumph back. All right, I'm gonna get our Discord chat room ready because I think we are gonna be heading to the interview here soon. There you have it, everyone. Big congrats to Quickdraw, taking it down 2-0 for the KAGI 11 championship against Holystewe. Big congrats to both of them for making it here, but that was pretty decisive. And like, this is one of those things you kind of wonder, like, are they just getting lucky every time, or is there something more to their decks? And it's got to be to their decks and to their play. Both of these players very, very good at what they're doing, but Quickdraw showing it's his favorite format, and he is good at it. So let's pop in over here and it's on. Sorry, I'll just gotta all the settings to make sure you can all actually hear what's happening. Dinobot, welcome in. Not sure if you've been lurking or just caught the tail end. Okay, Holystewe deciding he's pretty optimistic about being in there, but deciding just gotta call it there. It is very late. Holystewe's time. I think it's around 1 and gotta go to work tomorrow, so not a problem. Let's see if we can get Quickdraw though. Hey, welcome. And congrats, Quickdraw. Yeah, chat, are you all hearing him okay? I might be on here twice. Go ahead and say something a little again, Quickdraw, just to make. Ooh, it is not working. Give me 1 sec. Oh, that would be why. All right, try again.
Yep, testing again. How's that
There
sound?
we go. All good?
There
Chat?
we go.
You've got some fans in this chat, let me tell you.
Oh, well,
and
that's
well
good to hear.
deserved, because, man, you are tearing it up in adaptive. This
Thank you,
is
man.
3rd top 2 and 2nd win. Is that right? I didn't quite check.
No, this is my 3rd win.
3rd win in a row?
Second in a row.
Second in a row.
Okay. Yeah. I think I had 2nd place twice.
2nd place twice. And so how many times, I mean, how many times have you been in the top cut? Let's start there.
So this is the 11th KAGI season, and I've made top cut 10 times.
Wow, that is just incredible. Huge congrats on that.
This event's like my baby. You know, I love this one so much. Like, I treat this one way more competitively than I do anything else, including Vault Tours, to be honest with you. So I really just, I definitely pride myself on this event in KAGI. It's just been a blast to be a part of for 11 seasons.
I mean, and it shows, right? Like, this is, I like a lot of Keyforge. This is a format that gets a lot of mixed opinions, specifically because people say there's too much like luck or variance involved, and you are just such incredible proof that that is not the case, right? If you really put the work in, you really know your decks, you really pick the right decks that you know, and just really understand the format, really spend time knowing your opponent's decks and just like playing well, you're gonna get there a lot. Like, you cannot top cut this many times in a format that has a lot of variance. Like, it's not gonna happen. So, you know, you're awesome proof of just how good this format is, I think.
I appreciate that so much. Like, I totally agree with you. You know, this format doesn't get the due that it deserves. It's a fantastic skill testing format, and it's what Keyforge always promised to be, which is be the best at your deck and bring it and compete with it and leave it at that. It doesn't doesn't matter if it's the strongest deck in the world. It matters about how well you can play it and how well you can play against it as well, more importantly.
Which is like also one of the most fun things about it because that's so unique from any other game. No game really gives you that opportunity to be like, I'm not only the best with this deck, but I am the best at beating this deck. Like,
It makes a difference too. Like to say like I just the 2-0s are like they're such a good feeling to get 2-0 in adaptive or Newton because
when you're the one winning
you
them, yes.
well, even when you lose, like I've said this before too, like when you're practicing for adaptive and you lose a game, it's like what you don't care if you lose the game because you try to learn things from those games where you lose. Whereas in Archon, you might just be like, well, it was a bad matchup. I couldn't
Yeah.
really learn much from it, or I had a bad draw. But like with adaptive, you feel like you can learn something that you can apply in a future match, no matter what happens.
Yeah, definitely. And especially like with this format and these events kind of running more regularly and stuff, the more you get to know your decks, like it helps so much. And that's been, I mean, I'll say that's been part of my problem. I've tried a lot of different decks this season just to kind of see what felt like it was sticking, and it didn't go well. That's why I'm here and you're there. But I know you've talked about this deck a lot, but this is, I mean, you said like this is your baby. This is the one you're just going with because you know it. So let's talk a little bit about Guadalupe quick, just for those who maybe haven't heard you talk about it before. Why is this your adaptive go-to or one of your adaptive go-tos?
Primarily because I have the most games with it of any deck. Second most games of any deck I own. But the deck
Wow.
that I own, the deck that I've played more of, is more of an Archon deck. It's also Dark Tidings. I found that it's not as consistent for adaptive because it's kind of just it can really high roll. It's a really heavy rush deck. This is also a rush deck, but the thing that draws me to it for adaptive are the 5 artifacts that
Yeah.
just completely change the game state. Mecha Buoy, Tide Warp, Hydra Cataloger, Ultimate Device, and Static Collection Array. And knowing the matchups where you should play those and when you should discard them or when you should mulligan for them is so important. And in this matchup, specifically tonight, Ultimate Device was hugely important. I was
Yeah.
very lucky to get it early on, especially after I mulliganed. And then Holystewe also got it pretty early on, and it made a huge difference in the game because Guadalupe does not have creature control. It has 5
Mm-hmm.
creature control, so it has a final analysis, 2 techno battles, thin the herd, and an infighting, and that's basically it. And the Alfred device serves as that creature control where if your opponent's building a big board of like a Gravitron and 2 bot Bookdens or 5 Sanctum Knights, like that card at least guarantees they can't just go back into that house and reap out and win the game.
Yeah.
So, but there's some matchups where you want to be the deck that has the main house of Untamed and you just reap out with Untamed every turn. And you have to understand when those matchups are going to occur and just pitch the Ultra device because it's going to hurt you more than not. Same things apply to like Tide Warp. Tide Warp is another one that you
Mm-hmm.
don't always want to play. Static Collection Array the same way. Like a clever opponent can make you pay 7 for the Static Collection Array more often than not. And I was pretty fortunate in these games to be able to take Holystewe off check
Yeah.
a few times when they had the Static Collection Array out and force them to try to like go for 7 the next turn.
So I think that was one of the most interesting things with these two games is that playing whether, because you mentioned whether or not to play those artifacts depending on the matchup, and it's not just the deck matchup, it is the situation in the game, right? Like there are, because like I think playing Tide Warp in game 2 was totally way more hurtful than it was in game 1 because you played all the artifacts in game 1, right? It's not like you're just like you discarded any of them in this matchup, but when they came out, what the game state was, where things were, they made such a big difference between the two games. So it's kind of almost like situational awareness based on the deck you're playing also, like, which is really hard if you don't play the deck a lot, right? Like that's why it's uh just such an interesting thing because like yeah, I think the Tide Warp especially is the one for game 2 that just really slowly killed him later in the game, where he just kept having to take, or he kept playing cards to take the tide on his turn, which is like, well, okay, that's better than taking chains. He did have to take chains a couple times too, but then every time he did that, that meant he was going to lose the tide at the start of his next turn because of the Tide Warp, and so he was just
Right.
always taxing himself with that, which, I mean, the tough part was the play that we were all talking about, right? The data forge off of the theory or conjecture, which was just heartbreaking.
That
But
was a rough break for them. Yeah. Because the
even
Data Forge is especially good because of the Static Collection Array, where you can get
yeah,
a Data Forge key for 2 less than you normally would. Um, if he had 8 creatures in there and went for that, I would have done the same thing probably.
mm-hmm.
Just really unfortunate luck that he turned over the one card that he wanted to draw with the final analysis. So that was unfortunate. But like what you were saying about the artifacts in the situation is totally right. And it's really hard to see the situations where you should raise the tide for the current benefit at the cost of probably forging for more the next turn. And I think there were a few situations where Holystewe raised for the benefit of like Chelonia or the submersive, and then that gave me a little bit of breathing room
Mm-hmm.
to take him off check, knowing that he had to forge for 7. So like, yeah, but it's more than just like in that moment, in that individual turn, knowing that it's about planning multiple turns ahead to say, I have this Chelonia coming up, and I don't want to take the tide for it if I don't have to. So I'm going to not call on Tames, maybe take like a subpar turn in Star Alliance instead, and just plan a few turns ahead because of the Ulfbert device. That's what makes that deck so hard to play.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair. And did you play this throughout the whole season, or did you kind of switch
Not
it
at
up a little
all.
bit? Not at all.
Um, I did not play this deck until the semifinals, I think. I
Oh
might have
wow.
played it early. I did not play it in the pod phase. I was trying out some new stuff in the pod phase. I started with the deck that I won KAGI with last season, Sketchy Knifedom, another Dark Tidings double Whirlpool deck.
Mm,
And then I wanted to mix it up a little bit more. And I tried out a few new things. Like I tried a different Whirlpool deck. I tried a Woe deck with Whirlpool. And I did okay with them. They didn't quite have I didn't have the reps with them to feel confident with them in the top cut. The Woe Whirlpool deck was also a little bit swingy because it's a Woe deck, so it's going to have some high rolls and some low rolls. And I just didn't really want to take the chances. And so I was actually I was brainstorming and testing a bit with JT Russell today, trying to figure out what to play. And I actually thought maybe I should play this Mass Mutation deck I haven't played in a while. He and I played a match, and I haven't played it in a very long time. And then I was like, I should probably just stick with the Dark Tidings that I love. And I was going to play Sketchy Knifedom. And then I remembered Holystewe playing this Sanctum deck. And I've seen him play other Sanctum decks, I believe, too,
mm-hmm.
with lots of capture. And I did not want to bring a double Whirlpool deck or even a single Whirlpool deck against a lot of Sanctum capture like that. And so I was like, well, let's just go with what I know, go with Guadalupe. And I'm very, very glad I did now.
Yeah, because that one, Knifedom, is that the evil twin? What's his name?
No,
No.
the
Okay.
Chapman. No,
Chapman, not the evil twin Chapman.
that Evil Twin Chapman deck might make an appearance next season. We'll see. Um, but no, the Sketchy Knifedom I played last season for the entire season. I won with it in the top cut again, and it has 2 whirlpools, very little creature control, not actually that much capture either. It
Mm,
uses the whirlpools as creature control instead. It has a lot of house cheating. It has a tide warp, so much other weird stuff going on. Really cool deck, but I think it's a bit more disadvantaged going against heavy capture.
yeah. Trying to remember, we might have cast one of those games earlier in the top cut because that sounds familiar. But anyways, let's talk about these games tonight. I mean, pretty decisive in both games. Were you kind of like looking for anything on your mulligans and stuff, kind of going into this? What were you thinking, and what worked out?
Yeah, so game one, I had a pretty decent starting hand. It's just that it didn't have like any of the logos archiving I was looking for to start. It
Mm-hmm.
did have a Ulfbert device, but it also had 2 techno babbles in hand.
Mm,
And so I liked getting the device, but I decided to mulligan that back and get rid of the 2 techno babbles and try to get them later. My mulligan ended up having the Ulfbert device and a techno
yeah,
babble again, which worked out very nicely.
good
Um,
old
so
TCO
that's what I was
mulligans.
going for in game one. Yeah. I don't think it was fully the same, but
Yeah,
I got what I wanted, which was the Ulfbert device.
yeah,
Um, and then from there, I'm kind of just trying to archive a lot of the Untamed to go for the Chelonia play. And it set up nicely in game one where I was able to get the Gruen out and kill it with the infighting, get it back with the Witch of the Dawn. I had that huge bursty turn near the end.
yeah,
I don't think game one was like a runaway. I think it was actually a fairly close game until like all of my archives came together perfectly in game one.
yeah,
Like everything that I archived randomly and by choice was all Untamed, and it just was like you saw that turn.
yeah.
Like it was tide was high. I didn't even care if I was paying 7 the next turn. Chelonia, 2 Gruens and a Witch and 2 other Untamed creatures or something like that. It was just yeah, it was a pretty crazy turn. The other thing I looked for in game one was always trying to keep my creatures at an odd power number
Yeah.
for the the Opal Knight, or was it Opal or Onyx? One of the knights.
Opal Knight, yeah.
Um,
And we did notice that with the because you there was a point where you archived the fittest from
mhm.
like your discard. Was that with the archaeologist, I think? I was just like, that
Yeah,
seems kind of like a strange play, but then yeah, we saw later you had an entire line of odd power creatures, and when you look at Holystewe's deck, there's not actually a ton of creature control on that side too. So that Opal Knight, shutting that off was big.
yeah, and you're right. He doesn't have a lot of creature control in that deck, and the device makes it a bit more controlled. So I know that if he goes into Sanctum
Mm-hmm.
one turn, I have a turn respite away from the chance of the Onyx Knight coming out. So tons of damage pips in the shadows and the lights out, obviously. But yeah, I was definitely trying to play around any benefit he might have gotten from the Opal Knight. And obviously the infighting too. You're always looking with Guadalupe to have your creature order in the right way. So his infightings weren't very effective against me either.
Yeah, and then game two, obviously you were playing on the mass mutation deck. What are you looking for there?
Gravitron, all day.
It's a pretty easy one.
Yeah, I had to pitch half of it early,
Hmm.
and from there I was just trying to keep calling the other houses to draw into the It's Coming and the other half of it because I knew it was a pretty important card. It's very hard to remove from the board. Basically, can't do it unless you have a final analysis.
Hmm.
So yeah, the archives again came together pretty well for this one in game two. Um, I was able to build some big boards, cause the pressure that way. His Technobabbles were clutch over there, especially on the
Yeah.
logos early. That really slowed me down. But really just looking to expend their resources in creature control and amber control, and then whenever they're out of those, just take advantage of it and like attack.
Hmm.
So I knew at the end of game two, near the end of game two, I had already purged one Eddie. I fought the other Eddie, and I fought the Valmart, and his submersive was gone. So I knew he had virtually no amber control left except for a Mookling and a Xeno training.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I'm just going to rush, and I don't think there's anything they could do about it at that point. Earlier though, like the final analysis was gone. I drew a really big hand from that. The infighting was already gone, so I knew all they had was a thin the herd. And if I just played out my shadows with
Yeah.
their only creature control left being thin the herd, I was in a good place because I
Oh,
was
thank
very
you.
happy to have Rad Penny. Yeah, right. I was happy to have Rad Penny and Bony Thing to shuffle back in for another turn. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really about attacking those pressure points of Guadalupe and understanding when it's kind of running out of its answers before it shuffles again.
And one of the interesting things of that game too was that he discarded the final analysis really early and then archived it. So you kind of knew it was there. Did that do you feel like you played knowing that it was there, or like it didn't really matter because your plan was to make a
I
big
really
board
like that
anyways?
play. I thought it was a very good play to archive it because
Yeah.
he's it signals they're going for the Data Forge play, which is
Hmm.
okay. Like I could fight a little bit more. I didn't really have a good chance to fight more to kind of take it down for the Data Forge play. But no, I wasn't playing around the final analysis because it's a double-edged sword. It's like another one of those great cards in DT that sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. So I just knew that if I kept building a wide board, I was going to be okay, and I wasn't that afraid of the final analysis.
Gotcha. Yeah, and then just trying to see what else. Oh, the Gray Rider under the master plan. Loved that one.
Oh, love that. That was my favorite one of the match. Like
To
I knew
use
that Gray
the
Rider
Ultra
would come in
Gravitron
handy.
too. Just insult to injury on that one, but it was
Yeah,
yeah,
the backup
very
plan
nice.
with the Gray Rider was to use all of the Shadow's damage pips in some fights to clear his board and then play the master plan Gray Rider on the Reckless Rizzo and try to steal two the same turn I play it.
Mm,
Uh, Turned out that the Gravitron was like the right situation to do that instead, and it was yeah
and you
exactly what I
still
was
got
looking
the
for.
two amber because both of the Deepwater Gruins were on the board.
Yeah,
Which that was, I mean, like that was such a tough call for him because that was one of his turns where he took the three chains for the tide, right? Is to play
yeah,
both Deepwater Gruins. And it's like that seems justifiable, but
it
I
is.
don't know.
It's so tempting though, right? Like it's so tempting to be like, yeah, I'm going to take three chains and get this four amber, but I'm going to forge for two extra, and I'm going to give them the opportunity to purge them and gain more.
Yeah.
It's a tough call. It's really tough. Without knowing what was in his hand at the time, I can't say if I would have done the same thing, but I can totally understand why he was agonizing over that decision.
Yeah. Well, huge congrats again. That was pretty spectacular. You weren't 2-0 all the way through top cut, right? You had some couple 3-0 games if I remember.
Let's see. I don't
Can
actually
pull that
remember at this
up.
point. Last match against Fabulousing was 2-1. My other two matches in the top cut were both 2-0s.
Very nice. Yeah, so I mean, pretty decisive. Just cut through the top cut there and everything too. So yeah, huge congrats again. This is pretty. I mean, it's such a huge feat to, like you said, what is it? Win 3 of the last 4 KAGIs,
No.
or 3 of the
I
last
won.
5.
Let me think. When were the other
Oh,
ones
you
that
didn't
I?
win the last 2. We'll start there, and top cut,
I won
plenty
the
of them.
last. Yeah, winning the last two back to back is amazing. Last season I tied Not Tonight for the only player to win 2. Um, Now I'm the only one to win 3, so that feels pretty
Mm,
good.
I don't know if she's still in the chat here, but probably not because it's also super late over there. But I'm sure
Very
she'll
late.
hear that and rise to the challenge.
No,
Um,
she was rooting for me. We
yeah,
chatted a bit earlier. She said, she really wants me to be the first 3-timer. So I appreciate her support and everyone else's support from Sloppy Lab Work, of course.
yeah. Speaking of, I know you guys got your recording later, so I can let you go here to kind of take a break for a minute. But do you want to tell everyone just a really quick plug about what adaptive they can play at KFC if they haven't heard?
Absolutely. I hope everyone's heard. If not, I got out my marketing game, but KAGI Live will be at KFC this year. Officially sanctioned event from Ghost Galaxy. JT, Murph, and myself are going to be running a weekend long adaptive pods for KAGI. We're going to split everyone up into 2 groups, 2 pods, and just like the KAGI Online League, schedule your matches as you want. You're going to have a ton of people in your pod, probably like at least 15 or 20, we're hoping. So, there's not the expectation to play every game, but really just like, when you get a chance, play adaptive best of 1 against whoever else is in your pod. And then at the end of Saturday evening, we're going to take the top 4, so top 2 from each pod, and play them in a top cut Sunday morning for all of the KAGI finals marbles.
Awesome. And that is like you said something really important there, which is GG sanctioned. Because you said earlier when you first got on, like this is your favorite format. This is a format that you wish was just more represented in the Keyforge world and represented officially by them. This is a good chance to kind of just show like, hey, there's a lot of people that love this format. It is a great format for showcasing the uniqueness of Keyforge, which we all love. So go play in it, even just for that sake, just to tell them like, hey, this is something we want. It's not necessarily for every Keyforge player, just like Alliance isn't for every Keyforge player, but we want it to be a bigger piece. And so yeah, show support for that. I need to see if I'm gonna register for that or not. I'm kind of tired of how much I'm gonna do streaming versus playing, but definitely check that out if you're gonna be at KFC and come see all of us there. So, quick draw. One
Hey,
more. Go ahead.
I highly recommend you sign up because
Okay.
there is no expectation that people play, 10, 20 games, right? Like play as much as you can, have fun with it, enjoy it. If you're going to be streaming, which is awesome, I'm glad you will be, try to squeeze in a few games in between. I would highly encourage you to sign up, even if you think you might only get, a handful of games in over the weekend.
Yeah, and you want people to sign up beforehand? Is that or kind of day of is fine? But
It's helpful for us to know logistically, like how many we have. There are 18 signed up right now, but you can sign up at any point during the KFC weekend. So we're going to be taking registrants on Thursday morning while we're there. And then if you arrive later on Thursday or on Friday, or maybe even just on Saturday, just come up to us, let us know you want to sign up for KAGI. We'll get you in the pod, give you a button, start playing some matches. So yeah, it doesn't matter how little you're going to be able to, or, um, I would encourage everyone to sign up. And there's no deadline. You can do it anytime you want during the KFC weekend as well.
awesome. And all the new sets are viable for that as well, right? I think that's something
Yep, it'll
people are
be everything
excited
will be
about.
tournament legal, except for Menagerie and Unchained. So normal
Awesome.
tournament sanction rules.
Love it and love this KAGI event. Thank you. Huge thank you to you and Murph for putting it on. It's been a great season. And yeah, just a massive congratulations on this win. Can't wait for KFC, KAGI Live, and then next round of KAGI Official. Yeah, just such a great
Yeah,
format. So glad you guys are all keeping it going and can't wait to see
yeah,
more
man.
of it.
Well,
And
hey, shout out to you. You streamed almost all of the Top Cut games this time around. So huge shout out and kudos to you for doing that. It's been a blast getting all your coverage. It's been fantastic to go back and watch all the videos. So thank you very much, Ryan. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. I love doing it. It's a real gift for me to be able to see just other people play and get to see again all their unique decks and stuff, and just the awesome plays that happen. I was trying to think about how to describe that before, and it's just like every matchup of every deck is unique, and so there's always something that can happen that like you just play these games on TCO and you're like, I wish someone had seen that, because that was the craziest thing ever that happened, and it'll probably never happen again because I'll never play that matchup again. But it happened, and that was awesome. And there's just so many things like that that can happen in Keyforge. I love getting the chance to try to catch those things and share them with people. So excited to do more of
For
it.
sure.
But all right. Yeah, congrats again, and thank you for hopping on here for the interview at the end. Again, huge congrats to Holystewe as well, who is hopefully asleep already, but making it all the way to finals of this. Again, a huge achievement, and they've made it a long ways multiple times as well. Also a champion of KAGI at least once, right? So
I know, you know what? I think they made the finals. I don't think they've won before.
Okay. Well, so always next time. Definitely a very good competitor in KAGI. So all right, everyone.
I mean, shout out Holystewe. This is their second place finish. They've had a few. I think they told me earlier they've played 4 or 5 times and they've made the top cut all but once, maybe all of them. They've had a few undefeated seasons in the pod phase. So like, nice. Tremendous adaptive player. We're going to see him again here.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also just posted on Discords and a few places just how much he loves adaptive, just having a lot of fun too, which is one of the awesome things about this format, right? This is just, there's so much fun to be had. So
absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you again for hopping on here. Big congrats. And again, everyone who is watching, check out the Sloppy Lab Work stream, which will be starting up in like 20-30 minutes here, or is it going to be a little longer than that?
About an hour.
Okay. In about an hour, be on the lookout for that. Going to be some great stuff heading into KFC, which is next week, which is also very exciting. But I'm going to log off here. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you all next time. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, Ryan.